Hi, my name's Marcia Christen, and some of you know that I really enjoy sharing compassionate communication, or what's termed nonviolent communication. And I've learned so much that's been really important in my life, so much that this is really what I want to do, is share this. And I've gotten a little frustrated because I can't always seem to get the message out, so I thought I would try doing this video. I really wanted to get the message out about the things that we can do that can make such huge difference in our lives, with our relationships, especially our relationships with those that are close to us. So I've written down a list of things that you can do, and I'm going to go through those, and I'm really hoping to give you some tools that you can use and also inspire you to learn more. I really value learning and growing for ourselves that impacts others. When we are able to learn more about ourselves, especially about communicating, which we do in so many parts of our lives, if we become more aware, we're able to really act and speak in alignment with our values. And I think that has so much to do with healing people, healing families, really creating relationships that are based on trust and connection. And we're not always taught how to communicate in these ways. We have habits of judgment that are part of us and our cultures and the way we've been raised. No fault of those ahead of us. They didn't know either. But we're learning so much more, that we have these ways that really aren't working to help keep those connections, and misunderstandings and reactions, really trying to keep those down, where there's really heartfelt communication that's meaningful and useful. So I'm going to go through this, and hopefully that will be something that you will want to learn more. So I wrote down 5 things caring men and women can do to keep connection and trust with their children and spouses. And of course these are things that you could apply in any situation, but it's those particular relationships that are very important to us. Of course, our extended family, siblings, all those relationships that tend to be kind of charged, and we have patterns and habits, and yet they're most precious. And we really want our care to come through and to decrease the number of misunderstandings and really have connection and know what to do when we do have disconnection and misunderstandings and reactions, that we have a way to come back. So to me, nonviolent communication gives some great help, and I found it so useful. What I think is funny, kind of not a ha-ha funny, but kind of interesting, is that I was in communication. I was teaching classes, had all kinds of different communication programs that I had learned and was sharing, and yet I found in my own life that it wasn't quite doing it. I really didn't know how to deal with my own feelings, and then when I had children, I had no idea how to teach them, and here I had been in the profession. I certainly knew how to sort of make them do what I wanted them to do when I wanted them to do it, but that wasn't in alignment with my values, and they weren't learning compassion for themselves or others, and they weren't really learning internal motivation and emotional intelligence and the things that would help them be resilient. And I realized that I didn't have those tools either. And it was a big eye-opener to be in communication and realize that there was something really big missing. I didn't even know how to find it. Just like the rest of us, we aren't really taught these helpful patterns. So just by chance, I had a friend invite me to a group to learn about nonviolent communication. And at first I thought, well, I've learned a lot. I really don't need to learn anymore, but I'll go. It'd be nice to be with some other people that are also parents. And I was amazed what I learned, and that I had found the missing piece. It absolutely blew me away. I began teaching it as soon as I could. I was teaching in 2nd and 3rd grade then, and I really began trying to use it in my own life, in all my situations, and it impacted every relationship I had. It was easier to be with the children in my classroom. I really didn't have discipline issues. I really felt connected to them. I really had such a difference in my parenting and my relationship with my husband. We were able to really hear each other, and it was very sweet, and of course bumpy and difficult to change my old habits, and it took me a while. So this is something that's going to take some real effort, and yet to me it's the biggest gift I have in life. And I know that kind of sounds like an infomercial, and yet it's really true for me. So I want to get to the list so that you'll see what I've written down and be able to make an impact for you. So the number one thing I wrote down that I've learned is having internal awareness. Now I thought, oh, I'm a pretty self-aware person, but I really had a lot to learn in this place. One of the things that we can do is stop and pause. Well, of course, I always wanted to be able to do that, and yet I still was reacting. Couldn't understand. And yes, it's helpful to pause and breathe and get connected back to what's important to you. What's your intention with this relationship? What is it that's going on that's a stimulus for something that's really, really precious to you? And I really didn't know how to do it, and nonviolent communication gives a specific map, and that really helped me have a framework to fall back on when maybe I was triggered or something was going on that I didn't expect. And with 3 kids under the age of 3, I had a lot going on with parenting and just wanting to live in alignment with my values and teach my children how to do that too. And so one of the things is nonviolent communication provides a self-empathy or self-awareness tool. And in another video that I sent out, my first video, I go through that kind of quickly. But I think it's so essential. If you did nothing else but get more awareness, it's about putting your own oxygen mask on first, having compassion and understanding and clarity about what your stuff is. Then you can give to others, and it's so much easier to be with people and however they are and really have meaningful conversations when you've got that grounding. So that's what this has taught me. Of course, there's many practices that can help. Maybe you have a spiritual practice. Maybe you have a meditation practice that helps you slow down, be aware, connect to your breathing. Those kinds of things are very, very helpful, and I think nonviolent communication can add to those. If you don't have a practice, then it can help you kind of start that process. And it can be very healing. I've watched many people really get a lot of comfort from getting that clarity and understanding. So that's why it's number 1. So second thing that you can do is learn to listen deeply. This is not something we are taught usually by example. We tend to be a society of fix it, move on, buck up. We have a huge resistance as humans to anything that seems not okay or painful, and negative feelings we end up really pushing away from, and we miss the beauty that our feelings are telling us. There's some really important things that our judgments are telling us and our feelings are telling us. And it's getting back to what we're naturally wired for, that natural compassion we're wired for, and really being able to be okay with however someone is, and be able to listen and create an empathetic space for them to get to what their feelings are telling them, what's important to them, so they can move towards it. So listening deeply isn't just sitting there and saying, there's an intention to connect, not to fix or console or advise or convince. It's really different. So even if just today, when you listened, you only listened for what was important to that person. Maybe it's consideration or respect. Maybe they're wanting freedom or peace, or maybe they want something just to be easier. Maybe they want some kindness. Maybe that's what's really important to them, or being seen for their intentions, or maybe they want to be heard. So if we slow down, instead of fixing, we just had our intention to connect, listen deeply, provide room for people to get to their inner wisdom. It's been the most effective thing as a parent, the most nurturing and the biggest contribution that I can make. And there's so much more to say about that. I'd love to go on, but I want to get to the rest of the list. So, learning empathy, learning how to express empathy, really big. Number 3, speak with authenticity and care. Another thing we're really not taught. We're taught to be nice, which means often we don't say anything. Sometimes we bottle it up and it comes out when we least expect it because we keep pushing our feelings away or we don't say anything. And yet honesty can be a real gift. What a wonderful thing to know what it is that we can do for somebody else that would make their life more wonderful. And when we're able to express what we'd like to make our lives more wonderful, people really really enjoy that. It's being able to own your stuff and say it in a way that's easier to be heard. And it's not about manipulating, it's being honest and authentic, but not expressing our judgments and our opinions and our perceptions and our assumptions, but really getting down to our emotions and what it is that's important to us. And again, nonviolent communication has the same map that we use. It has 4 parts, but really 2 kind of essential pieces, looking at our emotions and looking at our needs, universal needs, meaning our values or what we long for. So those same 4 things and that same essential 2-part core is used in self-empathy, empathy for others, and speaking. So you really get a 3-for-1. You get 3 things that are so essential in one map. And you can make it your own. And so it's really sincere. It just gives you a framework to work from that's been so important to me that I can fall back on even in triggering situations or difficult ones. And I would say that is really important, to be able to speak just as much as it is to be able to listen. So, number 4, it's a Q-tip, like clean out your ears with a Q-tip. And it stands for quit taking it personally. Again, much easier said than done, and I really didn't know how you could not take it personally, but I think what it was is my thoughts were so constant, as they are for everyone, and we translate the judgments we hear into judgments in or judgments out, and I had no idea what to do with that. So once I was able to take those judgments and translate them into what it is that I was feeling, what it is that was so important to me, it was so much easier not to take it personally. Once I learned that everything that anybody says or does has to do with needs, their needs, not necessarily me. It's about their needs. Maybe in the moment they're frustrated because they're wanting respect. I can handle that. It doesn't have to be blamed on me. I don't have to hear everything with blame. I can translate it and make it more useful. And then use my gifts of empathy and speaking honesty in those situations. But quit taking it personally is a huge step, because then we have much less reactivity, defensiveness, arguing that's going on, a lot more connection. The 5th thing is really important to me, maybe more difficult to get to, but we all need support. It's get support for your relationships. We talk about the village. We need a village to raise a child. Well, we also need a village on support to help support a couple. We need a whole family to have a myriad of ways of support. We need an empathetic circle of support, really around everybody in every relationship. So what I would love to see is that learning empathy and speaking honestly with care can spread. So we have these communities where you can go and get empathy from someone else. And it's great to have the ability to get it from yourself, but it's also really meaningful to go and be able to really be heard and listened to, so that you can get to your inner wisdom, so you can go back to your family with a lot more clarity. And I have found that in my classes, I try very much to encourage people getting empathy buddies, where they meet with somebody who, you know, they already maybe go on a walk with or exercise with or meet with for lunch, and you spend 15 minutes, say, each person sharing and the other person making empathy guesses. And then you switch, and you get to practice empathy, and you get empathy. And I think this world right now, we are in an empathy deficit, and so we start expressing ourselves in very tragic ways. If we could fill each other up where we're really being heard, there's connection, there's a less sense of separateness, we get clarity and understanding, we move toward what it is that we value, it would make a huge impact on the world. So within your family, if you could have this empathetic culture and then have that spread out. So I think we need to make sure that we have support, definitely people that we can go to outside of our relationships and get that support. And I don't mean the type of support where you just vent and you speak about your judgments and you go round and round. I really mean all of us learning ways to listen empathetically, ways to speak honestly, in ways that can be heard. Can be really helpful. So that would be definitely on my list of how important it is to do these things, so that we can keep connection and trust in our relationships, and we can really have a lot more needs of ours met, a lot more love and support and consideration and kindness and compassion and all the things that we want for our world and the next generation, and the things that we're going to need for this human race to survive, really. So I hope this has been helpful for you. I really want to strongly encourage you to learn more. Maybe this will give you a little bit of a snippet or a little tease of what it might be like to learn about nonviolent communication and the impact that it can have. And although we have very busy lives, I understand, to me, it's one of the most important things we can do. So maybe one less soccer game activity or one less thing that we do when we veg out. Maybe if we spend a little bit of time learning some of these things, we can really have a huge impact on our lives, the lives of others, and our community and our world. So I have listed some of the resources down here if you want to see. I'll also try to include it, if I can figure out the technology, in the email that this video comes in. But the cnvc.org is the Center for Nonviolent Communication. They have lots of online learning. So does NVC Academy, standing for Nonviolent Communication, academy.com. And you'll have my website with my classes. I have some classes coming up, and if in this email you can look at those and register for those. And it's something that you can try, and if you're not completely satisfied, I'm happy to give back your full investment. I have class series that I find people have a little easier time learning because it gives you time to integrate it rather than a one-day thing. I also have practice groups, and I think, to me, learning in a community is very supportive, and coming with a partner or a sister or a friend or a child, older child, may be really helpful to learn together. So I hope that you'll find ways to learn about nonviolent communication online. You can always get the book, Nonviolent Communication, A Language of Life by Marshall Rosenberg. He was the man who created this in the 70s, and he's been in many areas all over the world and really helped some war-torn areas. So I have a lot of faith that, and have seen actually a lot of wonderful things happen when people start learning this language of life that's more serving. So thanks for listening. I hope this has been helpful and inspiring. Thank you.